out. The media has not been very good to me, but you have to understand the media is paid and bought for a lot of San Mateo County. If you look at Measure K funding, a lot of newspapers in San Mateo County have received Measure K funding. The Measure K funding really should have been to really improve the lives of our community members and really help. I can give you an example. We used to receive about $280,000 of Measure K funding for education around human trafficking, and we lost that, and it was taken away from us. And so, I couldn't pay the contractor that we had that was going around the county and educating people about Measure K funding. So that was taken away, but we have media outlets that have been receiving funding from certain supervisors, so you see articles that are swayed in one direction, and that's not what media is supposed to be. Media is supposed to be about informing, but we all know that headlines that are salacious sell papers and bring people to want to hear what the gossip is. So today I'm going to talk to you about myself, but why it's so important for you to vote no on Measure A, because it's about defending democracy, about accountability, and about the will of the people who are you. So I have been a public servant for 30 years, all with the County of San Mateo. I started my public service career in 1995. I started out with the District Attorney's Office, and then in 2002 I started my career with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and I started working as a correctional officer, which is really the first step into law enforcement. And I'm glad that I started there because I really learned a lot about people, and I learned about people that are incarcerated. And I always wanted to know what brought people to where they were and how I met them while they were incarcerated. And what I found is that a lot of people were born into really challenging circumstances. Generations of recidivism, generations of drug and alcohol abuse, generations of physical and sexual abuse. And so what ends up happening is that we find these individuals because they never had the love and care that they should have received when, growing up as kids. And they grew up in areas where there were not a lot of resources for them. And so they ended up just going to what they knew, and then that became a life of crime. And that's, how it kind of started their downward spiral. And so for me, it's not about how you meet somebody, but how you meet them and how you, even with one interaction, how you can change them. And so when I became a law enforcement officer and started working in the community, I saw a lot of really just disparities in the way that we served our community members. People that were in low income or underserved communities received less services than the people that lived in affluent communities. And I always wanted to change that. And you can only imagine that I worked in, when I started working as a deputy, I worked mainly in North Fair Oaks, which at that time was very high crime, lots of gangs, lots of drug activity, but lots of really good people that just came here to have a better life for their families and themselves, and really had a lot of struggles, but were treated very differently than someone that lived in a very affluent neighborhood. So I always fought for what is right. I spent my entire career standing up for what's right, protecting our communities, enforcing the law fairly, and ensuring that justice applies to everyone, no matter who they are. But today I'm here not just talking about fighting crime, I'm fighting against the corruption and the political machine of San Mateo County that are trying to take your vote away from you. Two years ago, the voters voted for change. I represented change. Over 82,000 San Mateo County voters voted for me to be their sheriff. And what I've experienced in the last 2 years of being in office is what I thought was, the fight of David and Goliath when I ran against the incumbent, which, I started out with nothing. I never ran a campaign. He started out with $350,000 in his war chest and all the political backing, and I had nothing, and people laughed at me. I had a 3% chance of winning, but for a year and a half I fought, and I went out and talked to people and knocked on doors, and up until 7 p.m. on election night, I was knocking on doors asking people for their vote, and in the primary I won by almost 14%, which that's like, the odds were so stacked against me. But when I came into office, I didn't realize that my struggle was not over yet. The battle was still to continue. So for the last few years, my department has been plagued by cronyism, favoritism, and a culture of fear. I've worked for 3 different sheriffs in my career, and I've seen when it's been good, but then I've seen when it's been terrible. And why I ran was to change that, and to change the way that we serve our community members, and to really treat people with fairness, with compassion, with dignity and respect. Because when growing up and going through the ranks, I saw how law enforcement needed to change, but we weren't changing, because law enforcement, it's a culture of a lot of good people, but then it's just, we're resistant to change because we want to kind of see it the way that we've always done things, but it doesn't work for our communities who we serve today. I just want to talk a little bit about, keeping in mind that this is, I'm standing up for the people. I'm standing up for not only our community members, but the people that work in my organization that have been really treated unfairly, and not kissing the ring, and not being in the groups that have been winning for years and years and years. And that's with resistance. And so, my predecessor, before I came into office, he had 6 months left on his term, and he made promotions. He put people in key places by design, so I would then face more resistance. So I want to talk a little bit about Measure A and what this does to everyone. It's a power grab. So the sheriff's office has always, or the sheriff has always been an independent body, and the Board of Supervisors and the county executive really control the purse strings of the budget. So they decide how much every department gets within the county, and that's really what their role is. Their role has never been to interject themselves into the organization, or to tell the sheriff who they can and cannot hire, or who they can and cannot fire. But that's all changed with me. And it's because I am not kissing the ring. I am fighting for the people of this county. I am also fighting for the people that we are responsible for caring for in our jails, but then also for those individuals that work in the organization that have never had a voice. And I've been fighting for that from day one. And so, this measure that the Board of Supervisors have put on the ballot is really a charter amendment. So what it does is it gives the Board of Supervisors the opportunity to, from 4 out of 5 votes, to serve me with a basically like a dismissal letter, and that's not how people that are elected are taken out of office. It's in the form of a recall. This is not about my performance, because I have really, have made some significant positive changes, not only for my organization, but for the communities that we serve. Crime is at an all-time low under my leadership. done some really creative programs that I'll talk a little bit more about later. And I started out with a deficit of 100 deputies when I took office, and to date I've hired over 255 people, which is unprecedented in 2 years. But that's because I knew how to, I put a team together, and I really, invest in people, and that's why people want to come work for the organization, because of the opportunities, but also because of, how we take care of people. There's a narrative that, the opposition is trying to put out, that people are leaving at an all-time rate because I'm the sheriff, and it's like, how could I bring 255 people to work and to continue to come? We have over 186 people in backgrounds to date. So if people wanted to work somewhere else, there's lots of law enforcement agencies that are hiring with incentives that are, a hiring bonus of $100,000. We have a $30,000 hiring bonus. And, with any law enforcement agency, you are going to have people that are going to retire. In San Mateo County, the median house to buy a house is at least $2 million, and people can't afford to live here. So lots of our law enforcement officers live in the Central Valley or further, and some even live out of state now because a plane ride to Utah or to Texas or to Tennessee is less expensive than being on the road 4 to 5 days a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time. And you're paying gas, you're paying tolls for bridges, and then your quality of life is really diminished with your families. So we do have people that have retired. We do have people that have left, but have left to go to other agencies that are smaller, that are closer to home, or people that have moved out of state. But that's what our reality is. I can't change those dynamics of how expensive it is to live here in San Mateo County. So this is an unprecedented, undemocratic attempt to overturn an election because some people didn't like the results. What I can tell you is I looked at how much Measure A, who has supported Measure A. It's been all the unions, and it's been my predecessor. His name you'll see on the donation list. I disrupted a lot of plans for people when I won the election, and so now there's this big push for me to leave office, but not based on anything that my performance, what I have promised the people. It's based on lies. It's based on hearsay. It's based on the unions wanting to control the organization and to tell me what to do. And then when you think about it, these cities that have gone on to support Measure A, when I reach out to these politicians, nobody will talk to me, nobody will return my phone calls. But you have to understand that it's self-survival when you're a politician. So people have to run again. So what do they want? Labor is like the most powerful entity, and they have a lot of money. So if you have their backing, it's almost like you have their backing, you have the money, you'll be on their mailers, and so people, are looking out for self-interest. And I don't understand that because, I helped those same people get elected. I supported them and really campaigned for them, but yet now they won't even have the decency to hear me out, to talk to me, based on a report that was paid for and bought by the county executive and the board of supervisors. They paid a retired judge over $250,000 to do this report, a 400-page report that was really about 100 pages of testimony. What they did though is they left out 29 pages of exculpatory information that would have really kind of, made this report fizzle out because it had documents in there. It had, dispelling what she found that either I or my ex-chief of staff did wrong. And it's all policy, it's hearsay, it's based on nothing criminal, but yet they left that out, and the county knew that because they had the documentation. I brought a copy for anyone that wants to see an example. In the report, it says that I did a backdoor deal with a lease of 2 buildings. two buildings that are on Broadway in Redwood City. And in the report, it says that I didn't work with the county, and I worked specifically with Coldwell Banker, which is not Coldwell Banker, it's CBRE, which is a whole different company. A simple Google search, if the judge took her time to do that, she would have found out that that's not the same company. But she said that I signed this lease. My signature is not anywhere on this lease. David Pine's signature is on this lease. The county executive gave me money in my budget to support these two buildings. One being a substation, because in North Fair Oaks, all of our resources are in different small buildings, nothing centralized. And I wanted to have a centralized building that the community could come to, but also the community could have meetings where they could hold special community meetings and have the space to work. And then the other building would have been a child care center. And when these were signed, they knew my full intent to have a child care center for our law enforcement officers, because you have to understand that when you do shift work, it's 6 in the morning to 6 p.m., 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And for those of you that have ever used a child care provider, we all know that there's no child care centers that are open at 5:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're lucky if you pick your child up by 6 p.m. And so this child care center would have supported all of our office, and we would have been able to support 60 children and have a subsidized child care center for our staff. And centrally located, where if we have somebody that maybe just had a child and they wanted to go on their break and nurse their child, they would have been able to do that because they would have had a nursing center there, and it would have supported kids from 4 months to 5 years old. And the hours of operation would have been from 5 in the morning until 7 p.m. And the children would have received 3 meals a day. They would have allowed for our law enforcement officers or our civilians to come read a book to their child, come on their break or their lunch. But that was all taken off. This was all taken off the agenda when I followed the protocols that were asked of me and implemented by the county executive and the county attorney's office. And they're saying that I'm just letting the building sit there. Well, it's been taken off the agenda a few times. And without the county allowing me to spend the money on the budget for construction work to move forward, the buildings will just sit there. But the narrative is I'm just letting them sit there, and I'm not being fiscally responsible. So these are just like one example, and I'll leave it here and anyone can come take a look at it. One example of the discrepancies of what they're saying that I've done wrong when the county knew about this. They knew about these leases. They could have told the judge, no, that's wrong, but yet they let her put this scathing report out without providing the documentation that would have really dispelled a lot of these complaints, that 40 complainants that were able to stay anonymous. No one was put under oath. None of their recordings or none of their statements were recorded, but yet, and I was never notified as a law enforcement officer, because although I'm an elected official, I still have peace officer Bill of Rights. That still falls under me. My civil rights were violated, my peace officer Bill of Rights were violated. They never notified me that I was being investigated. And yet, reporters and PR companies had the report before I even saw it. I saw it when it was released to the rest of the world. And so, you have to wonder why they did that. Was it by design? Why wasn't I ever told that I was being investigated? Why wasn't I given an opportunity? The judge sent me an email on a Wednesday and said, I can interview you today between 3 and 5, Thursday between 3 and 5, and Friday between 3 and 5. And if you don't make any of these times, then I'll take it as you were being uncooperative. Who does that? I'm the sheriff of San Mateo County. I'm the highest law enforcement official in this county. I am busy. But on top of it, I also have a right to have an attorney with me. And I wasn't afforded that. So I didn't give her a statement, because of it. I didn't even know that she was doing an investigation on me. So, you know, I think that a lot of this was done by design, regardless of who I had on my team. I had to let go of an assistant sheriff because of the job performance, but then also because he was feeding information to the county executive. The county executive used to work with him at San Mateo Police Department. He has never been off the books. He is being paid as an assistant sheriff, which those positions only exist, but yet the county executive has still paid him his full salary. Our taxpayer money for him to do I don't know what, because I've never seen him on campus. I just know that he's still being paid as an assistant sheriff. I don't know what he's doing. But you know, that doesn't make the front page news, right? So who's behind Measure A? It's, you know, bureaucrats and special interest groups, right? The unions, because they want to maintain control over the sheriff's office. County executive already has somebody lined up to take my place. They want to control who the sheriff is. Well, that only happens when you're at a city level and the city manager controls who their chief of police is. Sheriff's office don't work that way. The sheriff is an elected official, elected by the people of the counties. I had to run for a county seat. I had to run throughout the entire county, but yet I have 4 politicians, 4 board of supervisors that only ran a district that want to take my job away from me and cancel your vote. The 82,000 people that voted for me, they want to cancel that vote out. You know, the worst part about this is that I have people, police officers that took an oath of office not to lie, that are out there lying about things that I can prove. I have documentation. I have things in place that they are lying because it sells, and you know it spins their narrative. You know, they're saying that I'm not cooperating with the unions. Well, yes, I am, but I'm not going to go to a union meeting where they're having breakfast when they're trying to take me out of office. And the last time I went to their meetings, they were so disrespectful to me, yelling at me when I'm the sheriff of this county, and they have no right to yell at me. It's respect and dignity, and they don't show that to me right now. So why am I going to go and have breakfast with them in their space when they are just fighting me at every angle? They are sending emails to their membership, who are all county employees or employees of the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, asking them, telling them that I'm not cooperating with them, telling them they invite me to their office to have breakfast with them, but yet I won't go because I'm so bad I don't want to meet with them. That's not the way it is. I've been meeting with them, you know, via Zoom or via Teams, because we have to maintain some order. And I'm gonna walk in with my undersheriff, and then be with 20 of their members, and then their board members, and then their attorneys, and I don't have anybody with me. You have to understand the county executive works for the board of supervisors. The county attorney's office reports to the county executive. So anything that I work with the county attorney's office with, they tell the county executive everything, and then the county executive tells the board of supervisors everything. So there's no attorney-client privilege there. So do you think that I trust the county attorney's office right now? No, I can't. They themselves are giving legal advice to the board of supervisors who want to take me out of office. So you have to ask yourselves, if the accusations were true back in 2021, 2022, I was a county employee back then. I was a captain. Why didn't those people that said I did those things, why didn't they go and tell on me, or why didn't they go and report me back then? Why is it all of a sudden they're reporting me now, right? Because it serves their agendas. Why didn't they expose me if I did all these horrific things during my campaign when I was running for sheriff? That would have taken me out of the picture, but why didn't they do that then? Right now, these are people that are comfortable with the broken system wanted to stay that way. I was recently recently told by members of my organization that they wanted to go back to the old ways of the sheriff's office. The old ways of the sheriff's office, where people could do as they please, where no one's held accountable, where you, the people, are treated a certain way. The people that are incarcerated are treated a certain way. So what's really at stake is your right to choose who you has as your sheriff. If Measure A passes, it sets a very dangerous precedent. If the County Board of Supervisors don't like an elected official, where does it stop? You're just giving them the power, taking the power away from the people and giving it to 5 people instead of the 760,000 people that live in this county. If they can remove a sheriff, the highest elected law enforcement official, who else can they remove? Someone that ran, had to win the majority of the entire county. So we've seen the changes. We've seen what, once people are empowered, sometimes people feel that they're untouchable. But in the past 2 years, we've had deputies getting away with doing some things that I try to hold them accountable for. And what have they done? They said I'm retaliating on them. When people abuse their positions and they have 0 consequences, it's about protecting a broken system. It's not about accountability. And that's what's at stake here. If Measure A passes, it doesn't just stop with me. Imagine a future where an election, where it could be overturned if they feel that the wrong person won. If a small group of political insiders can erase your vote from you, what are they going to do tomorrow? The lies and fear-mongering behind Measure A. They're using the false narratives, manipulating reports, and politically motivating attacks to justify this measure. They're lying to the public. If Measure A passes, what is truly about accountability? Then why are the same people wanting me out of office? They're hiding their real agendas from everyone. If we go back to the broken system where they're doing backdoor deals, who's going to hold them accountable? Where is the transparency going to be to public service? I've worked really, really hard to make the positive changes in our jails, in the communities that we serve, and we've had some great results. But that comes with resistance, and people don't want the change. So I'm fighting. This is an internal fight. This is not about my performance as sheriff. This is about people don't like the way that I'm making the changes, that I'm holding people accountable. So, in fact, even at some city council meetings, they've said, well, if we didn't have the media on our side, she would be retaliating. So what they're doing is, at every step and turn, when I try to hold somebody accountable, they're saying retaliation, and they're running to human resources. They're running to the county executive. They're running to HR, where they should just come to me if somebody has a gripe, if somebody has a complaint. And every other division head has been allowed to do that. They're just not. The county executive and county HR has allowed for the employees to run directly to them. And I'm not talking about whistleblower complaints. I'm talking about complaints that I should be able to address and work with these employees. Instead, the door has been open for these people to go right to the county executive and go right to the HR without allowing me to address them. So the support's not there, where if we were having these issues, we could have brought in a mediator. The right thing for the county executive to do, go to the sheriff, let's get a mediator and let's work this out. Rather than I'll take your complaint and then I'll just stack it up so then I can get this salacious report out and show that the sheriff, is retaliatory. She's corrupt. Next time you hear that word corrupt, what corruption have I done? I'm pretty sure that if I was a corrupt politician, I would be in jail right now. Because at any point in turn, if there's a way that they could put me in jail, they would have put me in jail by now. I stand by my record. I've been a public servant for 30 years. I've not once been in trouble. Not once been in trouble. If anything, I've had to keep my mouth shut because because so much has been done to me. As a captain, I was physically assaulted and sexually assaulted. Well, had some sexual innuendos told to me by the same person that physically assaulted me. And when I went to, for the first time, to make a complaint, because I thought, if I'm a captain and this deputy is doing this to me, what is he doing to the young correctional officer that doesn't feel she has a voice? And I was made a mockery. Why are you complaining? Do you need EAP, which is our employee assistance program? Basically, do I need to go get some mental health assistance? And that person received, very little. We call it time on the beach, which is basically their discipline. When someone that sent a text message making fun of somebody that was in the favored group got more time than this person who physically assaulted me and said some pretty sexual things to me in my ear. So that's what drives me to make these changes, because we need to support our law enforcement, because if they're not okay, how are they okay when they go out to serve the communities? So I've been a champion for mental wellness for our deputies, but also for our incarcerated. 50% of our incarcerated population is now mentally ill. We have become the de facto of mental health hospitals in our jails. We are now a prison, because now we have state prisoners in our county jails. We've become a hospital. We've become a homeless shelter. We've become, basically where when people don't want somebody on the street, they're able to arrest somebody. They bring them into our facilities. And so, I've been a champion for. When I used to work at the women's jail, I used to see these poor women that would detox from heroin. And it was a really violent detox, and the nurses would only be able to give them water, maybe Gatorade, and Tylenol, and it was really awful to see. So when I became sheriff, I started a detox unit, and so now when these individuals come into our facilities and they are highly addicted to either alcohol and drugs and or both, they go onto a floor where we have the nurses that are continuously monitoring them. Then they're also given medication that helps them with the violence of the detox, and that's lowered these individuals going out to our hospitals, which then lowers the taxpayer burden, and it saves lives. I've also expanded our behavioral health unit. Our behavioral health unit now, we have doctors and nurses where we are able to treat people that are suffering from mental illness. And the way it works is kind of a step-down program. So we have a administrative segregation unit that we used to have full, and it would be with people that are suffering from grave mental illness, but also individuals that are very violent. And now our administrative segregation unit has had the least amount of people on that floor for mental illness, because we've been able to incentivize these individuals to take their medication, either by food or by more time out. For recreation time, we've given them, additional, let them listen to music or watch movies or do things that they maybe weren't able to do before if they took their medication. Once they're stabilized, we get them off of that floor and put them on our behavioral health unit, where they're able to not only get the support that they need from a forensic mental health doctor or clinician, but also the support that they need to really stabilize, and then when they come back out into the communities, they have the resources that they need and they're stable. So hopefully they will come back into our jails, and they'll be reunited with their families. I'll tell you a story. I was speaking to a mother of someone that used to come into our facility, and he was very violent, would always be on that administrative segregation unit. We were able to stabilize him, to get him, incentivize him to get him on medication. When I walked onto the floor, I didn't even recognize this person, because the person would never bathe. They would, just had, physically playing chess with another individual, and one of the correctional officers pointed out who he was, and I went over to go talk to him, and he's like, "Sheriff, thank you for, I'm sorry for me being such a jerk, because he'd always just give, everyone's problems, and he'd be violent with people." And his mother called me and said, "Sheriff, thank you. I know that my son is safe, and I've been able to have a conversation with him. And for the first time in 5 years, I feel like I finally have my son back." And those are the things that drive me, because I think about myself as a parent, think of myself as a sister, I think of myself as, just a person that if that was my family member that was incarcerated, how would I want them to be treated? How do I want my family member to be treated if they're contacted on the streets by a deputy? And so that has been my driving force, is to improve those encounters, to improve the safety of those individuals who are incarcerated. So I stand by my record. I stand by my record of improving public safety and holding people accountable and serving with integrity, and thinking of myself not only as a sheriff, but as a community member, and as a parent, and as a sibling. I was elected to serve you, the people, and not to stand behind these people that have been able to get away with things that are unethical, that are not the way that we should be serving our community members as public servants. So I'm not going to bow down to threats, to intimidation. I was offered $1 million to walk away, to step down with 4 years of health insurance, and I was really offended by that, because if they thought that I would walk away for a dollar amount, they were wrong. And I think that they thought that I wouldn't have been standing today, but I stand because of what I've done and what I haven't done. And I stand by it because I believe in serving the people of this county, and for my unscathed 30-year career of public service. And I didn't get here by happenstance. I have fought my entire career, had adversity my entire career, where I've been told, you just got promoted because you check a box because you're Hispanic or because you're a woman. No, it's because I stand for my integrity. I stand for my hard work. I stand for serving people in the way that I took my oath of office. And I will not bow down. I will continue to fight. And I'm here not just because this is about me. It's because this is about taking democracy, the vote of the people. And I am fighting this. I'll never stop fighting for myself, but I'll never stop fighting for you. I'll never stop fighting for those people that are incarcerated. I'll never stop fighting for those kids that need the support of our office, and the community members. So, I'm asking you today, they thought that they could break me, that they would silence me, but I'll make it clear, I'll never stop fighting for what's right. I'll never stop fighting for you, and all together we can win this fight. I want to talk a little bit about some of the programs that I'm proud of what I've accomplished. A few years ago, we had some farm workers that drowned in this body of water. So there was like this pool of water that was a part of the land that they were tending to, and so when we found them, they had some toiletries, so they went in there to bathe, but they didn't know how deep the water was, and they drowned. So instead of just these people drowned, it's unfortunate. I thought, how could I help? And so I created a program that's called I Can Swim. And what I did was I reached out to people in the community that were farm workers, and I thought, these individuals live on the coast, they're surrounded around the bodies of waters. But what about their kids? Because as a kid, or even as an adult, I still don't know how to swim. And I myself have almost drowned, but especially and I'm just speaking for me, in some cultures, swimming isn't a priority because we don't have access to pools and things like that. So I created a program that's called I Can Swim, and we took 100 kids, farm workers, and we taught them how to swim. I initiated a program called Lights On, And Lights On is basically a program that if our deputies stop somebody for a violation or anything that's inoperable in a car, that's a light, a tail light, a headlight, instead of giving them a ticket, because of their circumstances, because a lot of times, people are struggling, to put food on their tables. People are struggling to pay their rent. And instead of giving them a ticket that, would accumulate and they'd have to go to court, have all these additional costs, they would be able to give them a voucher. And that voucher would allow that individual to go and get their light fixed at one of the mechanic shops that we work with. And so they wouldn't get it, they wouldn't have that ticket. They wouldn't have to go to court, but yet they could just go to the mechanic shop and get their light fixed. So they won't be stopped anymore. Shop with a Hero, which is, we work with the Marine Corps, and we invite, anyone that has ever had anything to do with helping a child or saving a life, and we take 100 kids shopping. We give them a $250 gift card, and we take them to Target. And we do this winter wonderland for them, and we're able to have them come meet their shopper. We go and have breakfast, and then we get on a bus and we go to Target. We shop, and then we go back. They're able to wrap their gifts and then take a picture with Santa. And it's really a heartwarming, event, because these individuals, these kids, come from homes where maybe they're not able to buy gifts or for their families. I'll tell you, we had a child that he wanted to buy, instead of buying himself gifts for himself, he wanted to buy his mom a pack of underwear and then buy a blender because his mom had diabetes and he wanted to make smoothies for her. And so that was his focus. We started a firework buyback program, so especially here in San Bruno, it's like a war zone here on 4th of July. But not only here, but in other parts of our county. And so we do a gun buyback program every year, where we ask people to turn in their weapons that maybe are either were handed down or something that they don't want to keep in their homes. Because what we found, when homes are broken into, then there's a firearm there that gets into the wrong hands. So we did the same with the firework buyback program. And the first year we did it, we got over maybe 200, close to 300 pounds of fireworks. This last year we got over 750 pounds of fireworks. And that takes, mortars off the street. It takes these, fireworks that can blow up in people's hands. And it's been successful. I talked about the detox and behavioral health unit, but I brought in a life coach for women that are incarcerated. And we had one program where we had 12 women that have always never been able to forgive themselves for things that they've encountered, for the trauma that they've had in their lives. And so this coach was able to work with them and to teach them forgiveness and grace. And I was able to attend their graduation, and I gave the women that let me hug them, I gave them hugs. And one of the women came up to me after, and she said, that was the first human interaction, like affection, that I've felt in the year and a half that I've been incarcerated. And we forget as human beings that people need that support, and we just need to look at incarceration differently. Again, I talked about some of the wellness programs that I've done for our deputies, where they can call a clinician 24 hours anonymously and ask them for help. I did body scanners, where we were able to put our correctional staff through body scans. I had 2 deputies that came to me and said, if I wouldn't have gone through that body scan, I was ready to have, they call it a widowmaker, which was basically they were ready to have a heart attack. And if I didn't go through that body scan that you were able to provide for us, I would maybe possibly have been dead. And then, we do things like yoga. People can do yoga at their desks or if they're in their patrol car. It also teaches them breathing techniques. It teaches them how to relax and really how to reset when they're having a lot of stress. So when they're out serving our community members, they serve them in a different way. We did autism training for our staff. So, I've seen where, when people have autism, it's not a physical defect. exhibit. And I've seen cases where an officer will try and stop somebody that has autism and they don't know it, and they think that they're just, not listening to them. And then you see there's a picture or a video of an officer punching a 16-year-old boy who looks like an adult in the face because they're not, they got in a foot chase with them, and those are things that you can't erase. And so this autism training, I was able to put 500 of our employees. We have 800 employees at the sheriff's office. I was able to put 500 of our employees through this autism training, where a doctor from Johns Hopkins University came out and taught them to understand really what autism is. And there's this full spectrum, so it's not cookie cutter. You're not going to have the same. People aren't going to have the same, exhibit the same, maybe challenges that somebody would have, and really taught them how to have positive experiences and recognize what autism is, and how to work with somebody and help them when they have autism. Really working at emotional intelligence. We think that emotional intelligence, everyone just is born with it. It's not, and especially in law enforcement, that's very, very important. Expanded our STAR Camp. STAR Camp is a camp we take kids to every summer, and what I learned is, having a child that's on the spectrum, you cannot take your atypical child to a camp with your child that's on the spectrum. And so we hired paraprofessionals, and now we're able to take kids that are on the spectrum camping, and it really teaches not only our atypical children how to understand what it is to have, to be on the spectrum, but also our law enforcement officers. And it's really been impactful to our families that have children that are on the spectrum. I've hired, as I said, 255 people in over 2 years that I've been in office, and really have looked at changing the way that we hire people. Not only because you can train anyone to be a law enforcement officer, if they don't have a good heart, a good foundation, then that's hard to change, and that's what I really looked at changing. And then just really working at changing how we work with the community members, being out in the community, the deputies getting out of their cars, going into the schools, stopping by the senior center and saying hello to people, taking more time with our seniors when they call for help, because a lot of times that's like the only personal interaction that they've had with people in a long time. Not just taking a report, but thinking about how else can I help that individual? What other kind of resources can I bring to that community member? So, being more supportive. So it's called Going Beyond the Call, and it's people first, service above self, and that's what I've really been trying to change. But this measure, really, it's been one-sided, right? I haven't really been given the opportunity to tell my side of the story, and this report that's very flawed is out there. If you look on Judge Cordell's website, you will see how biased she is. She has put articles that have been written by a rag paper about me, and she puts them all on her website, almost like it's a badge of honor that she's done this. And she's refused to talk to media, certain people of the media. But she did talk to the Mercury News, where she does acknowledge that she did make a mistake in one part of her report, but she stands by her report. If you think about it, a judge, should be unbiased. A judge should look at what the facts are, and that report is riddled with hearsay, with people saying, "Oh, I heard," or how can somebody play footsies with somebody when they're on Zoom? I don't know. Normally, when you're on Zoom, it's like maybe from the waist up. These things that people have said are hearsay. There's photos of me with my chief of staff that are pictures that they took off of my social media platforms at events, community events, fundraisers. I didn't know, but taking a selfie on a beach, I didn't know that was a crime. But it's in that report. I went to Hawaii with my family. Because I was on the same plane with somebody doesn't mean that I'm having a physical relationship with somebody, but yet it sells paper, it's salacious. So if you look at that report, it's, you know, it's all about, you know, an apparent, you know, relationship. It's about, you know, retaliation. But who have I retaliated on? What corruption have I done? Like I said, if I did anything illegal, I'm sure that they would have had me in jail by now. So I just ask that you keep your, you know, mind open, that you really are informed about Measure A and, you know, what this does for future democracy. I appreciate all your time. I appreciate you listening. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions that anybody has. Yes.
Listening to you speak, I'm thinking you're not you don't come across as a militant, you know, law enforcement, hard, military style, you know, sheriff. You come across as a humanitarian, and something that's been missing in all our law enforcement. You're a sheriff. Now, I am in a city where they have a police department. I often thought the sheriff only took care of things that in the unincorporated areas of San Mateo, but I see that your role is bigger, and I'm pleased to hear your side of the story, because really it was so biased, and everybody was just saying, yeah, what is it? Yes, yes, yes. You know, there's always another side to the story, and I'm happy that you spoke up, because I voted no on that already, immediately, because I felt that right now we're under a real threat from the top government in the whole U.S. who's taking our rights away. The elected people are can't do anything because there's someone that's already trying to power grab everything that our votes mean nothing anymore. So I'm pleased to hear you, and I'm pleased to meet you. Thank you. I'm from South San Francisco.
No, thank you. You know, I'm really disappointed in South San Francisco because the council.
Oh, I know.
They, you know, I called both Eddie Flores and James Coleman to talk to them. They refused to answer my calls, and I helped them both. I mean, there were times where Eddie Flores called me when he thought he was going to lose his re-election. I told him to put his big boy pants on and put his head up, and that it was his to lose. And you know, really shameful that these people are looking for self-interest. They're looking for the support of labor. This is really a labor dispute. So I'll explain to you. This all kind of started when, so you know, when we were down a lot of deputies, they wanted all these, you know, incentives for people to come and work to come and do their job, really. So a lot of what they wanted were things that you have to negotiate when you're doing a contract. So the unions went to Mike Callaghy and to our Human Resources Department, gave them a laundry list of things that they wanted. So they agreed on double overtime after 9 hours of regular overtime. Okay, so a deputy makes about $60 an hour. Well, you think of double overtime, right? So they're making about $120 an hour. And so they agreed upon double overtime, anything after 9 hours of regular overtime. But when they did this, the county executive said he was going to give me $12 million, which then he went back on and only gave me $4 million. So when this was all said and done, it was only for 6 months, and it was a band-aid to me because I thought it's so expensive to do this. At the rate of $17 million, the DSA president came into the undersheriff's office before the 6 months lapsed and put his fist down on the table and said, "We need double overtime for 6 more months, and you need to give it to us." Well, it's $17 million already. There were no guardrails. So when I asked them to work in the jail where the need was, or I asked them to work in our court security and transportation, you know what they told me? "You don't tell us where we work."
What?
So they wanted me to extend it for 6 more months, would have been the rate at $34 million of taxpayer money, so they could continue to buy their boats or buy their big trucks or whatever they wanted to do. And I said, no, that is irresponsible. We can't do that. And it was a Band-Aid because I still have people that we were hiring, but it takes up to 18 to 24 months to get somebody to be a solo functioning, officer, correctional officer, or deputy. And so, they were upset that I didn't extend it. And then they're lying and saying that I had the money in my budget. I did not have the money in my budget. So the new rules are this year is that normally we would have $3 million that we had to kind of have savings, right? So we have a new office building, which I had nothing to do with. It was my predecessor. So they drained our savings because we are the only organization in the whole county that has been responsible for having to pay for one of their buildings. Well, you have to understand, all of our jails are owned by the county, but yet we have to pay the county rent. So the county gives us $320 million for our budget, but yet we have to pay rent back to the county for everything. For our radios, for our cars, for DPW, for HR, everything so the money that we get for our budget, it all goes right back to the county. Because they're all county entities, right? They're all within the county, they're all divisions within the county, and then that money goes right back. And I don't think people understand that. It's like, I don't have a choice, I have to pay rent, but they're trying to blame me for the reserves being drained down. But I had nothing to do with that building. But yet I'm getting the blame for it, just like I'm getting the blame for these buildings that are sitting there vacant because the county executive keeps taking it off of the board agenda and now has told me that the child care center is permanently off, like I can't do it. When he originally gave me money for these buildings, knowing my intention to have one of those buildings to be a child care center. Because you know what I believe is gonna happen? He's gonna try to take that building away from me and put a child care center for the county.
And pass it as its own.
Yes, just like they're passing as their own the domestic violence code response that I brought forward, just like the firework buyback program. I just saw today that they are taking credit for our gun buyback program. They give us money to pay people, right? But that's the board, those are the board members that give us the money, but yet they're taking full credit for everything now. So if they take me out of office, the new person that comes in is not gonna have any problems because I've hired people, there's no more deficit. We have, so we went from having 100 vacancies to now having, I think we have less than 25 vacancies now. And traditionally, the sheriff's office had to keep 25 vacancies in order to meet that $3 million threshold. But now the county executive said, no, you need to now have a $12 million reserve. And if you don't meet that reserve, then guess what? You're gonna get penalized. So.
They're setting you up for failure.
That's right.
And where does he expect you to get the money to put into a reserve from?
Told me just figure it out. Well, that would be having to cut programs, that would be having to cut positions. But you have to understand, we also have contract cities that are asking us for more resources. But we've never grown our workforce. So we've always had the same number, when traditionally we've only had the unincorporated areas. We have Samtrans and Caltrain. We have the city of Millbrae, we have the city of Half Moon Bay. We have the city of San Carlos. And then we've had our legacy contracts, which have always been the towns of Woodside and Portola Valley. And Transit's asking us for more bodies. The city of Millbrae is asking us for more bodies. The city of San Carlos is asking me for more bodies. But yet these same cities voted no confidence because of what? They're getting superior law enforcement services, but yet they want to vote me out of office.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
It's just one of my pet peeves when people take credit for other people's work. It happens everywhere, unfortunately.
thing just what boils down to is the fact that one, you're a woman. Two, the fact that you're a woman that doesn't stay quiet, and you don't keep your mouth shut, that you're gonna question authority. I can totally relate, because it happened to me here in San Bruno. So, and this is why people come after people like us, who, actually it happens to Mina Richardson, she's a board member for South San Francisco School District, and I was a former trustee here in San Bruno Park School District for 17 years. And, so it happens to, I think, a lot of Latinas, it happens to a lot of women of color, it happens to, women who just, they tell us to know your place, but we know our place, and they don't like where we put ourselves in that place. So this is what I think it really is about. I totally agree with you with Judge Cordell's 4-page BS report. I refuse to even take a look at it. The fact that you know, we all supposedly, they say you're innocent until proven guilty. They haven't even taken you to court. You haven't even been approached with paperwork to say, hey, you know what? We're filing a lawsuit against you.
Yeah.
So, in my eyes, you've done nothing wrong but done just your damn job. And I commend you for standing your ground, because I do know very well that serving our community, being an elected official, we're by ourselves, especially when we don't have others that are allies and who don't understand what the work is. Because a lot of people who have these positions in city government, on school boards, they don't know what the hell the work is. Because I've had these conversations with them. I ask them, do you know, are you doing the work? They're like, what is that? I'm working. No, you don't. If you have to sit there and explain to someone what the work is, then they're not doing the work. So I know you've been doing the work. And so I can't commend you enough. And I'm just so disgusted with all this stuff that's happening to you, because like I said, I can totally relate.
Yeah.
I saw the letter from the State Sheriff's Association and the dangers of what our county board of supervisors are doing. And the other thing too is I am disgusted with how Supervisor Corso has been going after you. I was raised, I'm first generation here, but one thing I was raised to be proud of my culture, be proud in my language, be proud in our people, not only my people, but I grew up with other people here in San Bruno. I went to school here in San Bruno where it was a melting pot. I grew up with every shade, color, language, food, whatever. And so I was raised with this melting pot, and we're here, we're supposed to help one another, we're supposed to support one another, and we're not supposed to backstab one another. That's a damn fact. So I really can't stress enough my frustration, my anger, my disgust with what's happening here. Because if it's not you, it can be someone else. And they're setting a really bad precedent to what they're doing, because God willing that it doesn't pass, right? But if it does, it's gonna set a bad wave with other counties, like, oh, you know what, it happened in San Mateo County, we can do it too. And so, anyways, I can't applaud you anymore for
It's, what I will tell you is some of those allegations, I was a county employee because I was a captain. So for them to try to say that, you know, I did all this stuff that was wrong in their eyes, like, you know, and it was 2021, 2022, I wasn't the sheriff then. But yet they're trying to take me out of office because of what somebody said, they saw or heard me say, with no proof. And like you said, they're the judge, jury, and executioner right now. And they are biased. They've already said, Noelia Corzo and Ray Mueller, that no matter if I'm put under oath, they're still gonna think that I'm lying. Okay? Noelia Corzo has said publicly that she is concerned for my mental wellness.
Oh my God.
Okay? And then on top of it, you know, Lisa Gauthier, she signed the ballot measure. So she's just as, you know, biased as they are. So how am I gonna get a fair shake? How how am I gonna get a fair shake? And so, you know, these people think that, say if it were to pass, they think that I'm gone the very next day. It's not the way it works. You know, it's gonna get drawn out in a court of battle. But I get to face my accusers. So, you know, employee number 3, employee whoever, you know, whatever person that gave testimony is gonna have to come, and I'm gonna be able to face them in court, and they're gonna have to be under oath, because they were not put under oath before. And so, you know, we will see where this goes, but I think that, you know, it's like I said, it's people that are the politicians are all behind this. You know, like I said, the DSA, the Deputy Sheriff's Association Union, they put themselves put in $50,000 of the union members' money. Then they formed another little PAC that's associated with them, and so just the union alone, $150,000. Okay, and then everyone else is like, you know, my predecessor put in money. Diane Pappin, you know, the Pappin sisters, right? All these politicians that don't want to see me in office. And like I said, the county executive already has people lined up. And, you know, if you think about that, he did that way before. You know, it's like a coup to take me out of office, right? So it's just really disturbing that, and they're getting away with it. It's like, people believe what they read. That's not factual.
I think one of the biggest lies that they have in this report is that you and your former chief of staff are having this so-called affair. And I was thinking to myself, like, have they gone to her house to see if he's coming in and out, or are they going to his house, seeing if you're coming in and out? And it's like, that's just crazy to me that that people are actually believing that lie. And you said it in one of your press conferences. If I was a man, they wouldn't be coming after me. And I still remember when Monks and Bolanos got caught in Vegas and nothing happened to them. I was really waiting for something to happen to those two guys, and nothing happened. But yet, here we are. You're a woman, you're not staying quiet, and you're not gonna be taking orders by anybody. So it's just crazy to me. This is double standard, so.
They were detained in Las Vegas because they got caught in it was called Operation Dollhouse. It was an FBI sting. So they went to go get a massage when they were staying at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, where I'm pretty sure they have a beautiful spa there. They went to go get a massage, and they blamed it on the limo driver and said that the limo driver took them to the east side of Las Vegas to the cinder block house that had iron gates on the windows.
And they didn't know.
And then there were young women that were being human trafficked from other countries that were there, and nothing happened to them. In fact, they received a sympathy email from the district attorney. I'm so sorry this happened to you. What can I do to support you?
Is that lifestyle?
I just wanted to share that in South San Francisco, among the Generation Z population, there's a lust for power. You notice that in my, there's 2 people or 3 people that running for office, and they right away on the first, a 20-year-old actually, he ran for the assembly very early on, and in his first term, and he was only 21. So this lust for getting, and they don't want to be on the wrong track, and they're on this pipeline to get higher office. Like, you know, they want to be into the higher office and, you know, come through the ranks. And that's what this is all about. This younger generation that doesn't appreciate some of the hard work that went before them to get ahead. They just want to be on the politically correct, and that's the sad part about this.
And remember, these are all mostly verbal accusations that these people are throwing at me, and I'm not able to face them. And you know, any law enforcement officer would know that whenever you do an investigation, put somebody under oath, you record their statement, and they have to have proof. You don't ever put hearsay. Well, somebody told me that they saw them doing this. Somebody told me they saw them doing that. Somebody said that they heard her saying this. It's like, you would never put that in a report because it's hearsay. Any judge would be like, this is hearsay, they would throw it out. But yet, because this woman is a retired judge who sat on a commission, a police commission in San Jose, if you call any San Jose police officer, they will tell you some stories about that judge and about how she was just out to get cops. And I think personally, I think that she believes what one of the employees said. One of the employees said that I did some homophobic text messages, which I passed for the report. They said they have a forensic report. I asked for it. They won't give it to my attorneys. She said she heard me calling my predecessor the N-word. My predecessor is Hispanic. Why would I say call him the N-word? And I've never used that. Those terms I don't use. For anyone that knows me, they know that I don't say those kind of things. I took people from my organization on a trip to learn about civil rights and to learn about, the challenges and to have a better understanding of why people that were affected by the civil rights movement maybe have adversity or have that generational trauma when they see us as law enforcement. And they called me, they said I was woke for doing that. I'm trying to shove woke shit down people's throats. It's like, no, it's life-changing. It's things that we don't learn in history books. Going back to the South and, learning and talking to people that were affected. Talking to one of the women that lost her eye when, in the Baptist church, when they threw a mocktail bomb in the church, and, her sister and three of her little friends were killed, and she lost her eye. Hearing that, being in that church, feeling the sadness and it's life changing. As a Hispanic woman, looking at the Jim Crow rhetoric on the wall, that I would have been said no dogs, no Puerto Ricans, no Mexicans, no Ends. I wouldn't have been able to come and sit at a table and eat in a restaurant. I would have had to use a different bathroom. I would have had to drink out of a different fountain. I would have had to sit on the back of the bus. But I'm woke for doing that.
Is that what that means?
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Sheriff Corbis. It's been a pleasure to hear from your own voice. And why I'm involved is because I am a victim of very serious domestic violence in San Mateo County from one of the most underrepresented and marginalized demographics. And I've had some extremely negative experiences with the deputies in your department, primarily stemming from the prior administration, and I've never had a chance to talk to you. I am a former forensic scientist. I testified for Steve Wagstaff many years ago. Back then I was, in criminalistics and naively thought, oh, he seems like a nice guy, but these days I'm not thinking that because I'm seeing him not prosecuting dangerous men, leading to the prevalence of so much harm that is hidden that the public is completely unaware of. And as a forensic scientist, having done a lot of research, I decided, okay, I'm going to look at the whole system, what is going on. And so I've looked at the domestic violence agencies, I've looked at law enforcement, I've looked at the Board of Supervisors, I've been attending meetings for city councils, commissions, Board of Supervisors for 2 years, and they do not have the public's best interests in mind. It's very clear they have agendas. It's very clear they bring in these fake people to put a report. They've already decided how they're going to vote. We used to get a whole 3 minutes of public comment to ask them or disagree. Like, no, we don't really want you to spend $100 million on this new bureaucratic thing you want to put together. It doesn't make sense, and they ignore the public and they say, oh yeah, all 5 eyes. And so I see the Board of Supervisors drunk with power, and I don't know how many of you are aware that they've already stolen the public vote on judges. You're supposed to be able to vote for your judge, but the playbook they've been running is they retire a judge out in a non-election year. They've already written a loophole in where they gave themselves power to say, oh, well, we'll appoint a judge. And in the pipeline in San Mateo, what we started seeing was they will appoint someone as a commissioner. You go to court, you're at the back of the courtroom, people, you know, they've got their witnesses, they've got their $500 an hour attorneys, they've got their friends and family, they've taken time off work, get to the back door, and the clerk says, oh, we don't have a judge today. So if you want to reschedule your hearing, you can, but we have a commissioner, why don't you just sign here? That's not consent, because nobody had the time to find out who is this commissioner, what does that mean? So their rights are being violated on a regular basis, and then somehow magically this commissioner just becomes a judge, and many of them have made it into the family court sphere that way. As recently as February 14th, Governor Gavin Newsom just appointed all of you without your vote, without an election, without a campaign, without a list of candidates, Judge Mark McCannon from Alameda County. And I think even as me, for someone who was like working all the time, I used to get my ballot, like, oh, there's a judge on here, I haven't heard anything, just check the box for re-election. So they were testing the public long ago, I think. And what I've experienced and what many people have experienced is these judges are horrific and they're drunk on power. And that's Ladora Cordell. As a forensic scientist, very versed in inadmissible hearsay evidence. I've been voir dire. I've testified in 2 counties. I've testified in San Mateo and Santa Clara. Trained by the ATF. I got taught by federal attorneys how important it is to be very impeccable with our word, and we have to be trustworthy. And for a judge to your detractors are using words like, oh, the esteemed Judge Cordell. So they're falsely trying to build up her character without any proof for anybody. So I saw a lot of propaganda. And when the smear campaign went out, I'm all up and down the coast. I'm like, this doesn't look good. They're making a personal attack. And anytime you make a personal attack, that means you've got nothing. So I immediately, red flags were up. I pulled up the Cordell report. Oh, I have 44 alleged witnesses, unnamed, and I didn't record it. And I've seen that as a playbook. And in my mind, that report, from a forensics point of view, was dead in the water. I'm like, this is a hit piece. This is not trustworthy. There was no voir dire. There was no checks and balances. In a crime laboratory, someone would read the report and see if it measured up. You'd have quality review. You would have an administrative review. But that piece of garbage was put out because some judge said so, and that should never be tolerated as good enough. And that's why I'm backing you up and then reading what Measure A says, said, yeah, this is a power grab. This is extremely dangerous. They're trying to steal the people's vote. And since they've already stolen your vote on the judges, remedy would be, and you know, we all are busy, would to immediately start recalling judges. Remedy right here would be to definitely shoot down Measure A. If this passes, in my opinion, it's void on its face because how this power grab was initiated. And it will take the people to speak up, show up to the Board of Supervisors meetings, go to your election office, start investigating your election, the man in charge of elections, that's March Church. Go start doing audits, get all your friends together, get involved. The only way we're gonna say this is we the people, that's all of you, have to govern our government. And we're seeing such a layer of corruption, and we have the power. I walk around with my Constitution, it's a pocket Constitution, I recite it all the time. With regards to Sheriff Corpus's rights, absolutely, her 4th, 5th, 6th Amendment rights were violated. She doesn't have to say anything about that piece of garbage report, and that she's actually been put in the position to have to is ridiculous. So Judge Cordell, no, she's untrustworthy, and that's what really stood out. So I highly encourage you to go to your elections office and get involved and start doing audits, start kicking up dirt. You need to break the power structure. It can't just be Christina. Of course, if she's going after corruption, they're not going to want her there. And if the corruption is above her, as we're seeing, how is she supposed to fix things? And I need her to fix the corruption in our agency so I can get justice in my case. And I want to work with her on that. So that's why I'm supporting her.
Yeah. You have a question?
I just wanted to say that Mark Church is also on board supervisor.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Just for those who don't know, Mark Church, who runs our county office of elections, he's a former board of supervisor.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Just so everyone knows, in the last election, when we were, it was about, I want to say a week before the primary, when I was running against Bolanos. Bolanos was seen coming out of Mark Church's house at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And if you guys noticed, you normally in any election, you'll receive your booklet, your elections booklet that has all the measures in it, that has everything in there, the information booklet. I received my ballot first. 10 days later, I received the booklet.
Yeah.
Was that done? That had to be done by
Yeah.
design.
By design.
Is that 29-page report that exonerates you available to read to the public?
If you look on the county's website, what they've done is they've gone in there and they've taken things out. So they put my attorneys are asking for the full original report, which we still haven't received. But the report that they put out, there were 29 pages that they went like it was page 1 and then it went to page like 8. And then, so people aren't paying attention to the page numbers, they're just reading, right? So they left 29 pages of exculpatory information that would have cleared a lot of these sustained findings that this judge found sustained when she was supposed to just do an inquiry, but yet, they did this report that I never had the opportunity to see. But apparently there were PR companies that had the report a few days before it was released. So I had no opportunity to see it. I saw it when the rest of the world saw it.
That's great. Does anybody else have any questions?
Can we get one of those signs or?
Yes, oh yes, I have signs here if anybody wants
Yeah.
some.
Two.
And just so you guys know, I received a death threat after the Cordell report came out from an individual that is incarcerated, and he's very, 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 very violent. So in the first report, he talks about, so he's a saxophone, he plays the saxophone. He talks about how he's going to cut and slice me open with his saxophone case. And no one from, like, the captain didn't call me to tell me that this, because I often go into the jail to go and say hello to people, to check in, and I walk on the pods and I talk to inmates. That's where I started my career, so it's very, to me it's like going back home. And so nobody told me about it. I found out because a correctional officer that was concerned for my safety called me off duty and said, Sheriff, I'm concerned for your safety. Did they tell you that this individual wrote this about you? And he cites in there that I read the Cordell report, and I think you're homophobic, and he's a gay man, so he's gonna talk about really like a manifesto about how he was gonna slice me open with his saxophone case. So last week I get a phone call from our psychiatric doctor in the jail. She said, Sheriff, you have a minute? I said, yes. She's like, I'm sorry to put this on your plate, but so-and-so, the same inmate, told our clinician that if you walk onto the floor, now remember, he was on the ADSEG unit, but because of, implemented these programs to try to get people off of there, he's now taken a step down to where he's on a floor where he can walk around. So, as I often go into the jail, right, so she said that he said he was going to grab this metal tray that he would have been able to have access to because it's really heavy, and he was going to, if I would have went onto the floor, he would have bashed my head in, and they would have had to pull him off of me, and he wouldn't have stopped until my brain was out on the floor, and he would have caught a homicide case. So the doctor told me that report was 2 days prior, and I was supposed to give someone a tour on the 2 days prior to that, before I learned about this. They canceled on me at the last minute. But I was supposed to give them a tour of the facility, and I would have walked blindsided and maybe my children would have been motherless right now. But that captain knew about it and didn't say anything.
Oh my God.
And one of the first person that took the report is one of the DSA board members, a detective, Detective Elliot Storch. And when my attorney called the DA to tell them about why aren't you doing anything about this, he said, oh, we sent in what's called a goldenrod, which is basically follow-up work for the detective to do. Well, back in November, we sent the detective a goldenrod, and it was sitting on his desk. He never did any follow-up on it. And this is the guy that goes in front of the South City Board and the council members and speaks about how they're scared of me. He's like, I don't know, he's a man, I'm 5'2". He's, 5'10", 11, and he's scared to be in the elevator with me because he says that I might say something to him. But then in the same breath, he says, well, there's cameras in the elevator. So how are they scared of me? I'm like, I have done nothing for them to be, but it's the propaganda that they put out there.
Yeah.
Well, you're just a little firecracker. I'm proud of you.
Quiero primero hacerle una pregunta.
Sí,
¿Podría dirigirme a usted en español?
sí. Voy a tratar, sí.
Bueno, quiero felicitarla porque ha tenido el coraje de enfrentarse a uno de los departamentos más corruptos, pienso yo, que de todo California. Hace algún tiempo se acercó a mí, yo tenía un programa de radio que se llama Hablemos Claro.
¿Me permite traducir?
¿Vale?
¿Me permite traducir para la gente que no habla español? En inglés. I'd like to translate so you guys that don't speak Spanish. Voy a traducir para la gente.
Le voy a
Sí, si usted quiere traducirlo, hágalo.
Por favor, para que entienda la gente.
Sí, sí.
He said he started off by saying that he's had experience with San Mateo County and this is one of the most corrupt counties.
Se acercó a mí, como le decía, una persona que me dijo, quiero correr para sheriff del condado de San Mateo. Y yo le dije, yo no tengo mucho que ofrecerte, pero conozco mucha gente y hoy mismo para usted le he pedido a todo el mundo que yo conozco que salgan a votar, porque no se puede dar un paso atrás cuando se ha logrado un paso adelante. Entonces, usted se está enfrentando no solamente al departamento del sheriff, que la gente, todos lo vemos, está allí, pero hay fuerzas en el condado que han puesto mucho dinero y que están apostando a hacerla a usted a un lado e inclusive a tomar algunas represalias con ustedes, porque el amigo que corrió para sheriff lo querían, después de todo, lo querían meter al bote. Le digo, esa es lo que yo he visto, lo que yo he vivido, y yo tengo algunas experiencias debido a que mis hijos fueron muy, yo llegué aquí hace muchos años, en los 70s, y entonces era más refinado aquí el racismo, era más sutil, más, pero existía en todas partes. ¿Quieres traducir?
At one point he knew somebody that ran for sheriff, and he said that it's important that we move forward and not go back. The person that ran for sheriff ended up getting arrested. Lo arrestaron al señor. He ended up somehow in the system where he was arrested, and that he supports Christina because she is for progress and forward movement.
Y esto se ha venido dando. Yo resentí más la corrupción del condado cuando un hijo mío, pues yo siempre les decía, hay que luchar, ustedes son nacidos aquí, hay que ir a la escuela, hay que prepararse y hay que cambiar el sistema, porque el sistema aquí está muy corrompido. Aquí no han cambiado, si acaso, algunas comas de las leyes que tienen desde el siglo pasado, no de 1900, más de 100 años. Entonces, ¿cómo ustedes creen que esto de por sí va a cambiar?
He said he's been here since the 70s and he's seen the corruption and the racism, and the racism is a lot more blatant these days, but this is the system, this is the foundation of this country, and he encourages his children that were born here to get educated and to help change that system.
Entonces, como le decía, mi hijo me dijo un día, me dijo, papá, quiero correr a concejal. Le dije, mira, tú eres una blanca paloma y te vas a enfrentar a lobos.
He said his son wanted to run for council, and he said, good luck because you're a white dove and you're gonna face the wolves.
Pero nunca, me dijo él, pero nunca vamos a saber qué podemos hacer si no lo intentamos nosotros.
But we'll never know what our potential is unless we try.
Entonces yo, con miedo, porque les voy a decir una cosa, conociendo la corrupción, es bien peligroso. Y yo fui, después de que mi hijo se terqueó y corrió para concejal aquí en esta ciudad, había una propuesta que alguien estaba empujando que se llamaba Propuesta F.
Proposition. He said that he was very afraid for his son to run, but that there was a proposition named F.
Era una propuesta que le querían subir medio centavo y decían que era para mejorar la librería.
And that it was supposed to be a 0.5 cent tax, and it was supposed to be to fix the library.
Entonces yo fui con la ciudad y les pregunté a los funcionarios, ya les había dicho en las asambleas que se hacían que no se miraba claro, medio centavo y que se iba a juntar tanto dinero, pero había un detalle, ese dinero iba a ir al fondo de la ciudad, no iba a ir al fondo de la librería.
So one of the details in that measure was that the funds would go into the general fund of the city instead of a specific fund to the library.
Entonces yo les puse una condición, les dije, bueno, vamos a aceptar que se hace eso, pero, y estoy haciendo un poquito de referencia, porque yo vengo aquí por la invitación que me hizo, yo no sabía, yo tengo un restaurante aquí cerca,
He's a
y
business owner
trabajé
here
desde la
locally.
mañana, y recibí una llamada de Marcos Gutiérrez, y me dijo, debes ir. Entonces le dije, voy a intentarlo. Entonces, como le digo, pues mi hijo decidió correr para el puesto de concejal y empezamos con las cosas que se dan en el país de donde yo vengo, que es México. La corrupción, el manejo, la manipulación que hacen a través del departamento de elecciones. Yo fui al departamento de elecciones personalmente porque yo representaba a mi hijo y les pedí que formalmente me dieran por escrito esa autorización. Mi hijo iba conmigo, no quisieron, pero aquí mismo, aquí está cerquita en la calle, a media cuadra pusieron la votación, o el lugar donde iba a ser la votación, pero el lugar no era ese. Entonces desde allí vimos toda la manipulación que se estaba haciendo. Y para no hacerles largo esto, en la noche cuando estábamos viendo cómo iban las votaciones, pues mi hijo iba ganando, la propuesta F iba ganando. Entonces les dije, pues ya faltan pocos votos que contar, ni modo que aquí dicen que aquí no hay madruguete, ni hay robo de votos, ni nada de eso. Pero sorprendentemente, a partir de ese momento, todos los votos fueron a favor de ellos, los contrincantes, y mi hijo ya no sacó ni un voto. Pero la propuesta F, todos recuerdan, deben recordar, porque estoy de aquí, la propuesta F ganó.
So his son ran for council, and they were questioning the elections. There were some issues around where to vote, that it was listed that he could vote in one place and then it wasn't there. So the election itself was questionable. So him and his son, who was running for council at the time, went to the election office and were seeking help. And that at that time they were both in the lead. And when it got very close to the end, somehow that changed and his son lost and Measure F was pushed forward.
Entonces, eso me dio a entender cómo que aquí también se cuecen habas. Igual que en mi pueblo allá en Michoacán, donde se robaban aquel tipo las elecciones. Todavía no creo que ha cambiado mucho.
He said the
Pero-
corruption here reminds him of the corruption back home in Mexico.
Pero aquí también hacen lo mismo. Manipulan, no se la roban abiertamente que alguien viene y se lleva la caja y eso, pero hacen una manipulación como está pasando con usted. Yo le llamé a David Canepa y yo hablé con David Canepa una vez largo y tendido y ya otros compañeros habían hablado con él diciéndole por qué es que él, si es una gente que goza con el apoyo de todos nosotros y nosotros gozamos con su apoyo, ¿por qué es que él había permitido que esto llegara tan lejos? También le llamé a una muchacha que se apellida Corso, la conocí en Regucidi, no sé si estará aquí, le llamé a ella 5 veces, tengo en mi teléfono ahí marcada las veces que le llamé, y ella no respondió.
So he's contacted David Canepa and had conversations with him and had dialogue. And he also tried to contact Noelia Corzo 5 different times and she never responded.
Entonces, hablando con Marcos Gutiérrez, porque yo he trabajado desde hace 30, 40 años con él en la radio, en muchas partes. Él fue un gran apoyo también cuando las grandes marchas que organizamos, a las cuales yo tuve el honor de dirigir aquí. Entonces, hemos trabajado y intercambiado puntos de vista. Pero yo vine, mi intención mía al venir aquí era decirle que no permita que le roben el espíritu de lucha con que usted empezó. Y a nosotros, a todos los que estamos aquí, por favor, señores, hay que buscar los votos que se necesiten donde sea. Yo, mi mujer, hoy platiqué con ella y me dijo, oye, ¿cómo va el asunto de la señora esa? Mi mujer está en diálisis, va 3 días al diálisis a la semana. En la elección me dijo que era votar y fuimos allá a San Mateo, al departamento, ahí donde está la oficina. Y me sorprendí la forma como estaban manejando la situación.
He said he came here today to tell Christina not to give up and not to stop fighting and to ask all of you here to help with the spreading of her side of things, that it's up to all of us to help her and support her as our elected official and to spread the word of what Measure A is actually about.
Entonces, como
And that
le
his wife
dije,
wanted to go to the elections and he took her to the election office.
Exactamente. Ella me dijo hace rato, dijo, ¿y qué más podemos hacer aparte de votar por ella? Le dije, bueno, llámale a tus hermanas, viven en Regucidi, que son ciudadanas también, llámales y llámale a tus amistades y haz todo lo que sea posible de aquí al día de la elección para ver qué podemos hacer. Hay que reversar ese poder oscuro que hay en el condado de corrupción, pero que tiene mucho dinero. Ese es, y nomás para que entiendan ustedes qué tanto dinero tiene. Hace años empezó unos laboratorios químicos aquí en South City que se llaman Genetech. Era una compañía pequeña en ese tiempo. Ahora es un gigante que tiene allá por la cartera 505 compró un enorme terreno y tiene unos enormes, y tiene la protección de algunas personas que son políticos de aquí de San Mateo que dicen que nos representan y que luchan por nosotros. Yo quiero decirles una cosa, yo soy inmigrante, hasta este momento he mantenido una lucha larguísima por mi residencia, mi ciudadanía. Yo quiero mi ciudadanía también, pero quiero decirles una cosa, el bien, nos estamos enfrentando a cosas muy difíciles y el golpe que le están pegando a usted, yo se los he dicho a todos mis hermanos, es un golpe a nuestra comunidad y a nuestra gente. Y a la señora Corso le dejé un mensaje en el cual le digo, usted a los asambleístas y a congresistas hispanos de Los Ángeles en una junta hace unos días, les pregunté qué era más importante para ellos, si el Partido Demócrata o su raza. ¿Qué es? ¿En dónde está su corazón? Entonces, ¿quiere traducirme?
He's,
Porque ya voy a acabar.
okay, he said that he recently went to a some kind of council meeting in Los Angeles and asked the Latino members there if they were there for their people or if they were there for their party.
Y yo fui a Los Ángeles por un asunto no personal, sino hemos empezado a trabajar desde hace mucho tiempo. Primero con el señor Biden, le escribimos cartas, tengo todo lo que les digo, la documentación para probarlo. A la señora Harris, y simplemente hablamos a oídos sordos, no oyeron. Entonces yo escribí una carta y le dije al señor Biden, eso que usted está haciendo ahora le va a costar bien caro. Y una vez lo dije en una radio en el aire, en un programa, porque hacía un programa en San José, en la radio La Caliente, y les advertí de cómo venía la oscuridad de una fuerza que venía sobre nosotros. Di nombres, no voy a alargarme, pero ahora yo les digo una cosa, yo le he dicho a Canepa, esto te puede costar a ti también caro. ¿Por qué? Porque muchos de nosotros que hemos dado todo el esfuerzo, yo no he votado por él, pero mi familia ha votado por él en números grandes y yo he llamado a la gente y hoy mismo creemos nosotros que tenemos casi 50 votos asegurados para usted, ¿me entiende? Pero yo veo bien difícil la situación. Marcos me llama para cuando va a comentar cómo veo la situación, cuál es el análisis, qué es lo que pienso, y es bien difícil porque la fuerza ha puesto mucho dinero. Esos que se dan de puritanos son los más corruptos porque usan el dinero de las fuerzas de gente que no es muy honesta y muy limpia para corromper a los que no quieren ceder, como usted, no quieren ceder a sus caprichos. Entonces, o cede a los caprichos de usted o la echa. ¿Me entiendes? Me acordé de la plática ayer mirando en CNN la discusión entre el presidente de Ucrania y el presidente de los Estados Unidos. Oiga, querer que el presidente de Ucrania firme la entrega de toda la riqueza por 100 años o 200 años, esto es terrible. Me acordé que en México, La Plata, había habido un contrato que ya se venció, donde había que entregarle a Estados Unidos a 25 centavos la tonelada de plata. Y la gente dice, ¿pero cómo? Pues fueron contratos, fueron acuerdos que se hicieron. Solamente ahorita costaba casi 2,000 pesos sacar la tonelada de plata y la entregaban por 25 centavos. Entonces, la situación es bien difícil, pero no está perdida. Porque mientras haya hombres y mujeres como usted que quieren cambiar y nosotros nos mantengamos firmes, vamos a ver el cambio. Vamos a ver un futuro mejor, ya no para nosotros. Yo tengo 76 años, pero sí para nuestros hijos y nuestros nietos y las futuras generaciones de este gran país. Gracias y espero continuar. Y acuérdense, Marcos Gutiérrez está haciendo un esfuerzo con la gente de Península 360 y la lucha está en pie.
He says he has over 50 signatures for Christina in support, and that the Latino community. Marcos Gutierrez was actually here. Estaba aquí hace un ratito. He was actually here a little bit earlier, and he left. So he's been rallying for Christina, and he asked that the community and the neighbors continue to spread the word about supporting her and about this measure, and that if we keep going and that we keep on with the good fight, that we will get change. Gracias, señor.
Gracias, gracias y espero que sigamos.
I think that's all. I have an event tonight, everybody, that I have to prepare for. Thank you all so much for being here. Does anybody have any last minute questions or anything else that they want to get off here?
I'd just like to say thank you for your fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff Corpus.
I just want to say that, you know, you have a great family. I know I went to school with Elaine and I know Patricia, and that we all agree and we're on your side, but we really got to work hard, hard to get people to know the truth, because if it's good that we know. It's great that we know, it's wonderful, and thank everybody. But if we gotta let the other people know that don't know the truth, and we gotta work really, really hard. You're like a woman, Cesar Chavez, you know, we gotta work really hard because if not, they're gonna get their way, and like this lady says, then other people are gonna do it too, but we can't let that happen. Somehow, some way, we gotta convey to the people the truth. It's good that we're here. It's so wonderful, but we gotta get this truth out to let people know the truth, because, you know, it's not right.
Right.
It's not right what's happening. You shouldn't have to go through this at all. You know, you're a respected official, and I'm very proud of you as being another woman, Latina. I'm Weta, but, you know, I have an all men's band. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I love music, that's why I do it. But hey, I get it, you know, they're not our enemies, let's work together. Come on, let's work together. It doesn't matter what, if we're female or male, if you can do the job, and you can do the job, and you wouldn't have got elected if you couldn't do it. So now we gotta let other people know the truth, okay?
Appreciate it. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.